Welcome everybody to another episode of our Conscious Conversations this evening. Hope some of you checked in with my chat this morning. Lots of fun talking about wild food. But this evening we're chatting to a good friend of mine, Kheryne. Hello Kheryne, welcome. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you for having me, Peter. It's great to be here.
I'm putting the title of our chat in the chat box. If you guys want to just familiarize yourself with the technology of Zoom, there are lots of little buttons at the bottom of the screen. One of them is the chat box. If you have any questions during our conversation, you're welcome to put them in there, and we'll answer them on the fly or at the end. And I have muted everybody so that we don't have like 50 people talking at once. At the end, I can unmute you guys if you want to actually ask questions, but it seems like most people like to type them. So Kheryne, tonight, and I'm not going to go into your bio because I don't go into people's bios because we only have like 45 minutes of chatting to do. And I want to get into the oomph of stuff. But I mean, on our website, soaringfreesuperfoods.co/conscious conversations, you can see Ken's bio, including everybody else who we've had on the show. And you can also see replays of all the previous shows. This, including this one. This one will be up. Oh, if I can paste it. No, not right now. It'll be up in the next day or two. So just have a look at the website page, which I'm trying to paste up here for you guys. There we go. So Ken, tonight we are apparently talking about how to feel high instead of hijacked from your hormones. So maybe a little bit of background. I mean, you're a very old friend of Baron's and of mine. And, you know, we've had tons of conversations on various topics in health, like for decades, basically. Certainly one of the most knowledgeable people I know in the field of natural health and wellness. And, you know, you're specifically interested in feminine health and hormones. And I mean, we had lots of conversations on the hormonal level and natural hormones and that kind of stuff. So I'm sure we'll get into that tonight. Mm-hmm. But you also call yourself a vitality and embodiment coach. So maybe we can start there. What is a vitality and an embodiment coach?
Oh, Lordy. Okay, so I guess it's really about recognizing the fact that we weren't born to just put out energy every day until we collapse. We're not workhorses. We function that way, sadly, but we do have the ability to thrive. There's so many loaded beliefs around, especially with women. It's like, oh, PMS, it's the worst. Oh, wait until you're pregnant. It's exhausting. You've got all these problems. And then the baby arrives and postpartum, it's just, you're flattened, you know, mothers are just permanently exhausted. And then you hit menopause, boom. So it's to me the polar opposite of how we can exist. And the reason why I love working with the word embodiment is because it all starts with our relationship to our bodies. You know, we can run around in our heads digesting all this information, but until we really start realizing how frigging awesome these vessels are that we are moving through life with. I mean, our body essentially is really the only thing we have. And women, unfortunately, for a very long period of time have been imprinted with these beliefs around the fact that there's something wrong with them from the moment that they start their periods. You know, it's best just to go on the pill to regulate your hormones, because otherwise it's far too difficult to do life the way you're expected to do it. And actually, it can be a completely different story. We all have the ability to thrive physically, emotionally, spiritually, and in our workspace. And we don't have to be using up all of our resources to produce whatever it is that we would like to produce in life. If that makes any sense.
Absolutely. I mean, I remember recently reading a book. Oh, the name will come to me in a minute again. And the woman was describing watching a scene where these guys were trying to push this canoe up a river in the Amazon jungle. And there were like 4 or 5 indigenous tribal members helping, and there were a bunch of, like, I think there were Italians, was he helping? And the Italians were swearing and they were angry and they were cussing and they were just not happy with us at all. And the indigenous guys were all like laughing and joking. And if the canoe clucked one of them, they'd like laugh at him, and they had endless energy. And she recognized immediately that the content is the content. Our choice is how we'd like to respond to that content. And your response has everything to do with the amount of energy you're going to have left with at the end of the day.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think it relies a lot on the belief systems that we've all grown up with, that we have to half kill ourselves to just survive. And I mean, I've watched my parents do it, and I did that myself when I was younger. And at 42, I honestly have a million times more energy and more vitality with a 2-year-old daughter and being a single mom than I did when I was 21. I have days when I'm exhausted. Obviously, we all do, and that's okay. But how do you manage your energy on those days? How do you deal with things that come at you? And I think one of the keys really is for women that are still in their reproductive years, is really working with your cycle. It's a gift that most of us don't realize. The keys are within our cycle, because we go through such dramatic changes from week to week on a hormonal level. And if we work with them instead of against them, then suddenly it's a whole different ballgame.
Wow, I mean, if only girls going through puberty were told that, rather than just being kind of ignored by everybody and put on pharmaceutical drugs.
Yes, before they even have a proper cycle. Exactly.
So I want to get into hormones in just a minute and delve into what they are from a feminine perspective and how they work and, you know, all that kind of stuff. But I thought, just to begin with, off the top of your head, 3 to 5 health principles that you have anchored in your life and for you are fundamental to just shifting that needle from being unhealthy and unconscious to being more conscious and more healthy. Just 3 to 5. What are your top things right now that you either still do or that you recommend hands down? And it can be anything related to health.
Yeah. Well, certainly on a feminine hormonal level, blood sugar stability. You just don't live on the coffee and even the organic muffins. It's not going to cut it, you know. even the bulletproof coffee is not going to cut it. Like, get the whole food in and realize that vitality comes with regulating your blood sugar. Sleep, no brainer. Get the sleep. Even with a baby in your bed, just spend longer in the bed. Yeah, that is 101. Nothing functions properly without sleep. Have deep connection with nature. Nature is where we come from. She's our mother. That's our fuel, spiritually and physically. Just get outside, get your bare feet on the ground in the ocean, whatever, at least once a day. Even if it's just one little tree in the middle of the city, like, go lean up against it and have a hug. Other key elements: move the way you want to, not the way you think you should, says the dancer. But yeah, like, just find a way of movement that you really, really enjoy. And little things. I think little things are huge for me. Burning a bit of incense, lighting a candle, making sure that your space is clear, like just creating an environment that really fuels your soul. Those are off the top of my head.
Wow, that was amazing. Fantastic. So you guys have had the whole talk now. We can wrap it up.
Driving 101.
So maybe, like, a lot of people on the call maybe don't know even what the different hormones are. So you want to give us just a top line, 5 minutes, what they are, how they work, and then we can go into why they're broken.
Sure. Okay. So your reproductive hormones and your whole endocrine system function as one. So in your ovaries, you're pumping out estrogen and progesterone and testosterone, but mainly estrogen and progesterone, which go through hugely different levels throughout the month. And then your adrenals make your adrenaline and your cortisol, and you're pregnant alone, which is the grandmother hormone, makes a lot of other hormones, and DHEA. And those are really about functioning. They're really about staying physically upright, getting mental focus, being able to do everything you need to do in a day. But also they are the emergency hormones, as we know. Everybody knows the word adrenaline and cortisol when it comes to stress. So yes, they're supposed to be able to buffer our stress, but unfortunately we're only designed to deal with about 10% cortisol dominance in our lives, and most people are functioning about 80% of each day in cortisol dominance. So that gives us a little bit of indication as to the burnout from like 35 onwards in both men and women. And then your thyroid has thyroxine, which is, it's got a whole bunch of different thyroxines, but that's really about regulating your rhythms, all your rhythms. Every organ, every system in the body needs this incredible, I mean, we all have our own rhythm, right? But the mainstream statistics are that 1 in 8 women will have a thyroid disorder in their lifetime. Some functional medicine practitioners, because the thyroid disorders are incredibly underdiagnosed, so functional medicine practitioners are guessing it's more like 1 in 2 women will have a thyroid disorder in their lifetime. And when that baby starts struggling, that affects everything: the moods, the weight, the brain function, all your organs and systems in your body. So we don't mess with thyroids. And then your pituitary is like the grandmaster up there, busy regulating everything. So like it will make the FSH and the LH, the follicular stimulating hormone and the luteinizing hormone, that tell the ovaries when to ovulate, which is really cool, and when to build the lining and that kind of thing. So there's always this amazing communication happening between the center of your brain and your pituitary and the whole endocrine system, and every hormone affects the other. Like progesterone helps regulate your thyroid. Progesterone makes cortisol. They all work together, basically. It's complicated, but yes.
Okay, so I mean, I'm obviously a guy, and I know a fair amount of this because I just happen to be interested, and I'm also a health researcher. Why would we even need to know this stuff? I mean, the hormones surely just take care of themselves. You know, I can see that maybe on 2 levels. Number one, you were talking about cycles, and that your obviously hormonal system shifts throughout the month. So maybe just run us through what changes, so that women are maybe aware that, you know, at certain times of the month, they're going to be in certain spaces just because of their hormonal systems. And then we'll get into maybe how the hormonal system could be damaged, altered, or broken from our living lifestyle, environment, that kind of thing.
Totally. Okay, so essentially women have 4 different phases in their cycle. We can start with the follicular stage, which is just after your period. And this is when estrogen starts building really nicely. Estradiol, the one that's made in your ovaries. There's a couple of different estrogens. And that's a phase that is a time where you physically and mentally start becoming, you have more stamina, more strength, more acuity with your mind. It's a very creative stage. This is where you want to be laying out the projects. This is where it's like, okay, right, let's figure out exactly what presentation we want to be doing, etc., etc. So if you're wanting to do any physical competitions, anywhere between the follicular stage and ovulation is where you're going to have the most strength, the most stamina, and the best mental calculation to be able to navigate a course or trail run or whatever it is. On the more emotional side, this is definitely this is a very social time. This is a time where you work very well with other people. So the estrogen, the progesterone is still super low at this point, and estrogen is like building and building and building and starting to ripen all of these beautiful follicles. And then you hit your ovulatory time. And this is when you want to present. This is when you are on top of your game. You feel more gorgeous than ever. You your words work better than ever. Like, your brain functions better than ever. And if you're wanting to win any competition, book it on the day that you're ovulating. This is where you present yourself to the world. And then during ovulation, you've got a huge surge in FSH, follicular stimulating hormone, which is almost like a whip that comes across and triggers a whole bunch of your follicles. The follicles are the things that hold and make the eggs in your ovaries. So they're all maturing at slightly different stages. It takes 3 months to create one egg, not 1 month. It takes 3 months for those eggs to mature and release. So stressful things that happen in your life can impact your cycle 3 months later. So FSH it comes down, and it has this beautiful stimulating moment, and then one follicle will start ripening to the point of releasing, and then you have the luteinizing hormone from your brain that comes through. So that's all happening suddenly in those 4 days over ovulation. And this is a time where your energy is really very much outwards. You're really enjoying people, you're very expansive. And soon after that, you start shifting. So the luteal phase, which is the longest phase, which is from your ovulation through to when you get your period. The follicular phase is about 7 days, and then 7 to 10 days. And then your ovulation is around 4 days, but you actually only ovulate on the 1 day. And then the luteinizing stage is sort of 14 to 17 days. And that's a really interesting time. So some people say, oh God, okay, I'm going into PMS, I'm going to feel terrible, etc., etc. But actually, this time the estrogen has dropped down, and the progesterone is starting to overtake and get higher and higher and higher. It's building the lining of the walls, sort of ready for a baby to be carried. And this is a time where we can be really productive in a very different way. So this is the more internal time. This is a time to not have as many social things on your calendar, but it's a time where you are starting to discern a lot more easily. You're starting to realize what's working, what's not working. It's a time to rearrange the house and clean out the cupboards. It's a time to say to people what you couldn't say before. Those things that are really niggling on your mind. If you say it early enough, it doesn't become loaded in those 4 days before you get your period. Very useful. Try not to let it hit irrational point. So use that energy. Realize, if you put in your diary that this time, and progesterone is a very graceful hormone. It's really strongly the more softer internal feminine, where estrogen's the stronger, more doing, more multitasking feminine. Progesterone really is that space of refining. It's a time for making changes. Whatever, and that's the beautiful thing, is that women have the opportunity to keep recreating their reality every month. Keep refining, keep looking at what needs to change. Instead of, when we get stuck in that loop of the same old thing, that's when the PMS really emotionally starts niggling, and the body starts going, this is not working for me, this is not working for me. And they're working together. That's why I love hormones, because they're holding the physical key and the emotional key together. You can't separate it. So you are going to be expressing whatever it is that you need to be looking at. And then you go into your menstrual phase, which is between 3 and 7 days. And that time is the stop time. This is where everything, the progesterone drops down, the estrogen drops down, and you have a window of stillness. And it's not about doing nothing. It's about really trying not to force things, trying to create a bit of space. This is where for me, I feel the creativity comes through. That's when the insights come through, the very subtle things that we often don't give space for in life. We like to understand everything. We like to analyze. We like to structure everything. Everything must fit in some box somewhere along the way. And during menstruation, you may feel very emotionally vulnerable. You may feel like you don't have a handle on things, that everything's suddenly a little bit too abstract and diffuse. And the key is to allow that. And then the gift starts coming through. Then something very beautiful. That's when you can rebuild your energy again. This is a time where you're letting go, you're releasing, you're needing to be quiet. Do not go out on social engagements if you don't have to. Like, really allow yourself to just drop into whatever space there is. And then after that, your energy can be a whole other level if you give yourself that space, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually.
Oh.
So, and then again, the estrogen starts building and we go around the whole cycle again.
I'm feeling totally bleak that I'm a guy right now. I'm like, come on, I want that kind of flowing cycle in the month. Sure. Okay.
Sorry, so, you guys have a 24-hour cycle.
Oh, there we go. Yeah. Sleep, wake up, sleep. Sure. I mean, that's so powerful. I mean, if you know that that's how your system's going to be moving, you can act in accordance with that and just, get the most out of your month, your cycle. That's fantastic.
As long as you are ovulating, that's the key.
Okay, so I'm sure we'll get to that. So now tell us what's going on in our world today. Why are the hormones all out of whack? Why is it crazy instead of high? I mean, hijacked instead of high.
Exactly. Well, there's quite a few factors going on. We'll start with the most depressing one, and that is our environmental chemicals, otherwise known as endocrine disruptors. A lot of them are also labeled as something called xenoestrogens, which means a synthetic estrogen. And so we have over 80,000 chemicals in our environment, in our cleaning products, in our cosmetics, body products, our clothes. It's everywhere. And so the thing is that these environmental chemicals absorb into our bodies more easily through our skin than they do from eating them. But yes, it's the pesticides on the food, it's the hormones that are intravenously given to the animals, the animals that we eat. And it's obviously the fumes and all the pollution, etc., etc. It's all the plastics, anything that's made from the oil in your car. So when you have a body product that's labeled aqueous cream, it is made from the oil in your car. You are smearing that on your skin. If you have makeup that says mineral oil in, it doesn't mean the beautiful minerals that you get from plants, it means petrochemicals. And the best one of all, petroleum jelly, is pretty obvious, but that's what we smear on babies' bums on a general level.
I won't say we, that's what some people.
Some people, a large population of humanity. And the crazy thing is, the very sad thing that's brought me to tears for years is the fact that these chemicals have a way of hacking into our immune system, into our endocrine system and our immune system. And they can mimic things like estrogen up to 1,000 times stronger than our natural hormones. And some of us are born with these chemicals already in our bodies, which is incredibly sad. But then you can look at things like endometriosis and realize that for some people that existed when they were children, before they even started their period. It existed from birth. And then you can start being a little bit more relaxed with yourself and not sit there and go, why is this happening to me? Why am I broken? And it's not you that's broken. It's the environment and the way it's impacting us. And we can change this. We can change the story in our body. Our bodies are desperately trying to heal all the time. We have to simply take out the things that are blocking the natural healing process and obviously refuel ourselves with beautiful things like organic food, organic body products, even organic makeup. Dr. Hauschka, beautiful, beautiful company that make the most exquisite 100% organic plant-based makeup. And please, everybody, organic baby products, they're everywhere now. They're easy to get hold of. But it really makes me cry every time I see a mother picking some petroleum jelly off the shelf about to put that on a baby's bum. It is, yeah. So that's the real doomsayer side of things. Obviously, yes, as I said before, the pesticides and the animal products. So the first thing you want to do is change your story. Don't go and shop in mainstream shops. Make sure that you're finding the best quality vegetables and animal products, that they're free of pesticide and hormones, preferably certified organic.
Okay, there's a lot of stuff there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and people don't realize the level to which, produce is sprayed, heavily sprayed. And these are, as you said, endocrine disruptors. They're designed to disrupt the system of that insect and that bug. So they're going to do it to you too. And this is consistent poisoning over decades.
Yeah. Well, the history of pesticides is that it came from something that was developed for harming humans. It came from chemical warfare, from Agent Orange. And they had a whole load left over after the war. And then everybody said, what are we going to do with this? And we're like, I've got an idea. Let's dilute it. And we sent it to the farmers to kill the bugs. Brilliant. So that's glyphosate. That's the history of it. And the really sad part now is genetically modified food. The actual grain that you plant in the ground, the piece of corn that you plant to grow that plant, is certified as a pesticide. It's not classified as food. It's actually classified as a pesticide. So, and yeah, so things like if you're going to eat wheat and corn and soya, if it's not certified organic, don't even contemplate it. It's not food. So that's the main impact, really, on a really massive scale, as to why people like hormone disorders are falling out of the sky and landing on our heads, essentially. The other side of it is stress, definitely. Our systems are not designed to handle the amount of stress that we are imposing on ourselves on a daily basis.
Okay, and then maybe tell us a little bit about more direct manipulation. I mean, there are things like the pill, HRTs, things that directly influence hormones. And then we'll get to answering some of the questions, guys. I'm not missing them.
Yeah, he's reading them. Okay, so the contraceptive pill obviously was a fantastic idea back in the 60s, when women decided they needed to claim their freedom on every level, especially their sexuality. And it made sense at the time. Great, let's just take this pill every day and then we can get on with our lives. What they realized incredibly fast was that there was quite a strong side effect. And yes, they've lowered the dose of the pill, but they've discovered that this particular side effect hasn't necessarily dropped. And that is the risk of blood clots, as in thrombosis and strokes. I've personally met 2 women that had strokes nearly fatal in their 20s. In France, each year, there are about 20 families who approximately each year that sue the pharmaceutical companies for the deaths of their daughters, and the pharmaceutical companies pay and carry on producing this. I don't think that is a fair trade-off for having sexual freedom, and I don't think it's the most effective way of having sexual freedom. And it certainly is not something that regulates your hormones. So we need to make a massive distinction. Progesterone, estrogen that exists inside your body, progestogen or progestin, is a synthetic chemical that, like the environmental chemicals, it locks into your hormone receptors, but it's not a hormone. You do not have a progesterone-based contraceptive pill. You have a progestin-based contraceptive pill. It's not the same thing. It's nowhere near. It has a completely opposite effect on the body. So the biggest problem really is that women are not empowered to understand what it is that they're being prescribed from maybe 14 years old. And
Whoa,
vitamin supplies, etc., etc. Oh,
you're back.
good.
No, carry on again.
But it also stops you ovulating. Back, okay. So that's not the only issue with the pill. The other big issue is the fact it stops you ovulating. And if women don't ovulate, our risk of cardiovascular disease long-term goes sky high. Our risk of osteoporosis, our risk of breast cancer. We have to ovulate. The progesterone that we create from ovulation, we only produce progesterone when we ovulate. It's the only time we produce it. So that, as I said earlier, is what makes the cortisol, so we can deal with stress. It's our buffer. We need that. It has a huge play in our brain. Progesterone helps make GABA, which is our calming hormone. You want to diffuse anxiety, get your progesterone up. Your progesterone also seals the myelin sheath on your nerves. It's like this little feminine hormone that goes throughout your body, soothing everything and balancing everything. And progesterone is the only one that's a precursor hormone and an end hormone. So cortisol is an end hormone, estrogen is an end hormone, but progesterone makes other hormones. So it's both. It's very clever. And if we don't ovulate, we don't make progesterone, and therefore we're literally depleting ourselves each month more and more, where we should be fueling up and being able to heal and adapt and find peace in our minds and feel connected to the women we're hanging out with. There's even this amazing thing called the sweaty t-shirt study, where they took a whole bunch of women on the pill and they took a whole bunch of women that weren't on the pill, and they got them to smell men's sweaty t-shirts. Reason being was that your immune system, the state of your immune system, is what attracts you to different pheromones. Okay, so my immune system will attract me to somebody with an opposite immune system to make a child with a stronger immune system. But when you're on the contraceptive pill, the smell of the pheromones, you're attracted to somebody with the same immune system. Your taste in men changes when you're not on the contraceptive pill.
That's fascinating. Sure.
I think that's the most brilliant study I've ever read.
What happens if you're on the pill when you meet your partner and then suddenly you stop taking it?
Pray. I actually have met people that it has been a game changer. Thankfully, it was never in very serious relationships, so that's okay. But yeah, they suddenly saw their partner through different eyes after coming off the pill.
Wow.
I don't think it happens too often, though. I don't think it's the main factor in what you're attracted to in somebody, but I just thought it was phenomenal that like our sense of smell actually picks up different pheromones when we're on the pill.
Do we want to take a minute to just run through these questions, because there's a lot piling in? Andrea wanted to know about what happens during menopause hormonally.
Totally. So a healthy cycle, your PMS is your sensitivity time, but you shouldn't be dealing with the extreme mood swings and the extreme weight gain and the painful periods and all of those uncomfortable symptoms that really set you back in your life are a sign that your hormones are struggling, that it's a cry for help from your body. So the same thing happens in menopause. Menopause, it takes between 12 and 2 years of perimenopause, so of things starting to shift and change. So that means that your estrogen might go a little bit higher and a little bit lower and start going up and down a bit. Some women it doesn't, and your progesterone slowly tapers off. So you stop ovulating every month, and eventually you get to the point where your period stops, and a year after your period is stopped is now classified as menopause. So when we say somebody's going through terrible menopause, it usually means they're going through terrible perimenopause, the whole lead up to that. And then when you shift into menopause, everything just becomes, your ovaries are still working, they're still producing progesterone, estrogen, and testosterone. It's just at a more subdued level. There's no longer these big spikes anymore. So a lot of women that have a healthy transition feel a sense of ease when they shift into menopause. It's like the shamans put it very beautifully. They speak about women go through cycles in their lives to keep recreating themselves and learning more and shifting layers, and it's this learning process where we're refining ourselves. And when you are in that place where you're worthy of becoming a crone and stepping into that place of wisdom, then you go into the menopause, and you now hold your energy. You no longer shed it each month. You've built up your wisdom and your reserves, and you're now able to hold this body of knowledge. So it's a very still time. So that's a healthy transition. But yes, because of the high stress, the environmental factors, blood sugar instability, lack of sleep, incredible pressure on women today to be mothers and work 9-to-5 jobs and be perfect partners and all this unrealistic stuff, then you usually find that women that had difficulty with PMS, maybe had difficulty with conceiving if they had children, will then be prone, if they don't change the story, to having a difficult perimenopausal process, which is obviously the hot flushes. That's the estrogen going a little bit too cray-cray, especially if it drops too low. It's the weight gain, the mood swings, the night sweats, the insomnia. Sorry, ladies, it can be horrific. I've seen women go through the most scary menopause process. It doesn't have to be that way at all.
Sure. Okay.
And it helps if we balance it earlier, so we don't have to deal with that later as well.
Yeah, so comes back to it again. If your lifestyle is, constantly being upgraded, and you're focused on eating more cleanly and living more healthily, yeah, let's see, what else have we got here? What happens with your hormones once you have a hysterectomy?
Okay, very good question. Hopefully, can she tell me if she still has her ovaries?
Oh my word, Tanya.
She's gone. Okay, so hopefully, if somebody
has nothing.
They took it all. All right. Yeah. Then what you want to do is you want to get yourself to an integrative or functional medicine doctor, and you're going to ask them about bioidentical hormones. I was going to mention this anyway. So if you've had a really challenging life and you're going through menopause from hell, then yes, do all the lifestyle changes, but because your body has been depleted in its reserves to really make that shift, then we have this amazing 21st century intelligence where science has been used in the natural way, and creating things like natural progesterone cream or bioidentical progesterone cream. You also get bioidentical estrogen and testosterone and other hormones that you want to avoid having to use those unless you need to. If you don't have ovaries anymore, you do need. Okay, you're going to need the estradiol and the progesterone, and maybe even a little bit of testosterone, but somebody needs to work that out for you as an individual. This is a medical thing. So there are beautiful functional medicine practitioners and integrative medicine practitioners that can do this for you. And it's 100% identical. They're made from plant sources, and they work in your body in a way that helps you to thrive. They work with you rather than HRT, which again, like the contraceptive pills made by the pharmaceutical companies. The thing is, the pharmaceutical companies, they can only produce a drug that they can patent, and you can only patent something that's not a natural substance. That's like, just to give them a bit of kudos, that's why the contraceptive pill and HRT are not 100% identical hormones to your body's own hormones.
Okay.
I hope that's helpful.
Okay, Montana wants to know, what are the top things you can recommend for thyroid health, seeing as thyroid seems to be so important?
Right. Difficult question to answer. Well, not entirely. So selenium is a big one. Selenium, you can't go wrong for any kind of thyroid imbalance, and that's from Brazil. Nuts is your easiest food source, unless you do need a stronger dose. The thing is with thyroid, you've got underactive thyroid issues, you've got overactive thyroid issues, you've got underactive thyroid that is from adrenal stress, and you've got underactive thyroid that's an autoimmune disorder or autoimmune kind of state. One of the main categories would be Hashimoto's thyroiditis, and that covers 90% of women with underactive thyroid. That is usually undiagnosed in this country and many places in the world, and you're usually just given altroxin to regulate your thyroid, but it's an autoimmune disorder, and therefore it affects other parts of the body, and it mustn't be ignored. So the big red flags for you is if you are on altroxin or something, some kind of mainstream thyroid medication, if you still have symptoms, you're probably dealing with an autoimmune story. So for instance, iodine, you would say would be really good for thyroids. But if you are dealing with Hashimoto's thyroiditis, iodine can actually aggravate the story until the antibodies are reduced, the inflammatory story in the gut is reversed, and the system starts regulating itself, then the iodine becomes beneficial. So it's a dance, and that's definitely major thyroid problems. I refer straight to medical. It's something that I could only give the basics like organic food, regulate blood sugar, etc., etc. But that is, so you need the blood tests, and you need very close medical supervision. But on a general level, thyroid loves minerals. Like, just to give it a little bit of a boost, seaweeds and your green juices and sunflower sprouts grown with your ocean water, as Peter likes to do. And yeah, anything with high mineral density, oysters. Oysters are a great one. Zinc. All our endocrine system loves zinc and magnesium. Those are two big ones. Thyroid also really likes things like coconut oil. It can work well. All your hormones are made from oils and proteins. So minerals, the endocrine system needs a lot of. So minerals, proteins, and fats are a really good basis for starting to balance the whole endocrine.
Wow, fantastic. It looks like if we finish all these questions, we'll be done at midnight, Ken.
Sorry.
Lynn wants to know if we can mention the organic baby products or suppliers.
Sure, easy for me. So Olief is one of my favorites, OHLIEF, and that you could pick up at Wellness Warehouse, Faithful to Nature online. They've got an amazing range. And then the other big one has totally gone out of my head now. It's got a beautiful probiotic cleanser. I find even with organic, some of the baby products have too strong aromatherapy oils in. So I like the ones that have no smell at all. And this name is not coming to me right now.
Oh, we can get that.
Yeah, but look on faithfultonature.co.za. They've got a huge range of baby products, and look for the probiotic baby cream and baby cleanser, etc., etc. It's the best one that I found.
All right, then Net had a question. I know of many women who have been prescribed long-term birth control pills to help them live with endometriosis. Is there any alternative to help them? What is your view on what is causing this condition? To what extent can our diet assist in helping to regulate hormones? And do you suggest different foods at different times of the cycle?
That's a lot of questions. Yes, and yes. So I have the greatest compassion for women dealing with endometriosis because it can be incredibly painful. And I completely support being on the contraceptive pill temporarily to suppress the pain when it's overwhelming. So there's quite a few factors involved in what causes endometriosis. It is now technically classified in the functional medicine world as an inflammatory condition. So you're going to look at the autoimmune side of things. You're going to look at the gut. You're going to look at getting the microbiome balanced in the gut, and doing an anti-inflammatory diet. Getting rid of all the environmental chemicals. They definitely have a massive impact on endometriosis. And high estrogen also aggravates it. It triggers the inflammatory story. It makes the tissue more inflamed, and it feeds the ability for the tissue to grow. Estrogen grows tissue. It grows breasts. It grows our hips when we're going through puberty. Too much of it, or too much of the wrong type, grows things like breast cancers. So so we know that estrogen dominance, either the environmental estrogens or in your diet, too high animal fats would be one, and too high refined carbs. They would both be inflammatory, and they would both aggravate the strength of the estrogen. I actually have an article on my website on endometriosis with all of this in a nutshell, and some nice things like vitamin B6, et cetera, that make a big difference. So that's womanthrive.com. And just type in endometriosis. You'll find the whole article on that. But definitely progesterone cream, without question. The 2 times or the 3 times that I would say progesterone cream is a no-brainer is with big fertility issues, with endometriosis, and with severe menopause processes. Definitely you want to go to a functional integrative medicine doctor and get that natural progesterone cream.
Okay, great. So Nanette, check out that article. I did post the website in the chat screen, so you can follow that. She had another question around birth control. As we answered it, basically you don't have progesterone produced, and that has major health consequences.
This is the thing. So even with endometriosis, even with the pain that somebody goes through each month, hopefully it's not painful, but for some it's extremely painful. You still need that progesterone to now bring down the inflammation, because progesterone is naturally anti-inflammatory, and balance out the estrogen. So you want the cycle, but you want to do a huge anti-inflammatory support and reversal of any kind of immune antibodies that are going a bit cray-cray. So it's a lot to do with the gut as well.
All right. Are you looking at this chat screen there, Ken?
No, I'm not.
Okay, I'll read it to you.
It's too overwhelming. Okay.
Portia says that she's a cancer survivor. She's been in remission for 4 years. After radiation and chemo, she was told that she has a 50% chance of not getting babies due to not getting her period at all anymore. She wanted to know if yoni steaming helps for infertility.
Yoni steaming is a beautiful, beautiful tool that I love to use, along with many other things. After being through a process like that, I would look on multiple levels I would do like a 3 to 6 month process with you to actually help get rid of the damage that has been created from the chemo and the radiation, and because the body can heal that damage. And then get your fertility up and happening. But yoni steaming by itself for your situation, I don't think would be strong enough, but it is an incredible tool, and it's an amazing space to learn meditation. It's an incredible thing to really get into connecting with your body that way. And the herbs they do activate beautiful processes. So it's certainly going to help regulate cycles nicely. etc. But I would use far more tools than just that.
Okay, so Portia, get in touch with Ken, and she's going to help you out and go deep on that level.
Very happy to do that.
Annalise asks, what causes severe headaches or migraines on day 28 and day 1 of her cycle? What can I do to avoid that happening? I've had it for more than 20 years, every single month.
Oh, baby, you can so change the story. So there's a couple of main factors to why that's happening. Either your progesterone is not getting high enough. Okay, so this is something I have to diffuse quickly. A lot of mainstream doctors are saying you get PMS because of the progesterone you're producing, where the reality is you're getting it because it's not getting high enough. When those hormones hit the peaks that they're supposed to, you feel good throughout your cycle. That is really, really, really key. And it's something that grates me about mainstream medicine. So Could be your progesterone is just too low. So main supplements for getting that going, you want to get your magnesium in, which you can get from lots of raw cacao, or from, you can get a topical spray. If you're going to take a supplement, you want to take magnesium glycinate or ornitate, not citrate. It gives you diarrhea. And then vitamin B6 and zinc. Those are like a really cool foundation for supporting ovulation and PMS. There's obviously a lot of other factors. Another thing that can go on with those headaches and migraines, it can be a histamine story where the hormones are playing off with the histamine. So you would need to look at a few factors around that, and then if you can get your histamine levels down and not reacting to your cycle, then you can get rid of the headaches completely. So it's also, we really need to track what's causing the headaches, but hormonal headaches are a huge, huge problem for people. And 99% of the time, they're totally reversible. There's actually a beautiful, Dr. Aviva Rom is one of the people I love the most, and she has a couple of write-ups on her website on menstrual migraines and menstrual headaches. But yeah, it's really about figuring it out for you as an individual, but it's something that can change.
Fantastic. Demi wants to know if the morning after pill is similar to the normal birth control pill.
You're legally not supposed to take it more than 3 times in your entire life, because it is so highly impactful on your hormones. Yes, it is exactly the same stuff as in the contraceptive pill, but the dosage is, I don't know how much higher. It's like a whole other level. I had taken it myself when I was in my early 20s, and it took me quite a few months to recover from that. Maybe it was longer. Yeah, it's not something to be taken lightly. If the condom breaks, you can use 1/3 lemon juice, 2/3 water, and douche, ladies. Another thing you can get up there fast is neem oil. Kills sperm in 10 seconds.
Great.
So you got to be quick.
Okay. Gee, I think we're just going to be answering questions for the rest of the evening, again. But that's great, because it's important. It gets good stuff out there. Nanette wants to know again, is it true that certain foods should be avoided that mimic estrogen to avoid a tumor growing? Should one have a benign tumor? Does this only apply to a specific type of tumor?
So my question would be, is it a hormonal tumor? Like, is it in your breast or your ovaries or in the hormonal tissue somewhere? Then absolutely yes. But also, this is an interesting question. You do get estrogens in our environment in plants called phytoestrogens. And the jury's out a little bit as to whether some of them are actually beneficial in a way that they are lower dose than the natural estrogen in our body. In other words, they would help reduce the estrogen levels that we're dealing with. So I think it really depends on the individual and how they respond to certain foods. But we can't get obsessive with things like fenugreek, which, you know, in super high doses is a phytoestrogen, but in your food, it's only going to be beneficial. So it depends what you mean by estrogens in the food. Certainly, always avoid any kind of estrogens in your animal products, without question. If you're eating something like, you want your meat to say grass-fed, you want your eggs to say pasture-reared, you want your dairy to say organic, like hands down, if it doesn't say those things on, then don't touch it, basically.
All right, great. We have quite a few questions around wild yam and progesterone. So
good question.
Yeah,
another question. Yeah. So yes, wild yam has traditionally been used as a progesterone supplement in ways, like you get wild yam tablets, wild yam cream. It's not 100%.
Where's Ken gone? Come back. Oh, looks like we lost Ken. Come back, Ken. Looks like everyone else is still here. Oh, massive storm apparently in Cape Town. Signal could be a problem. It's not my connection. Oh dear. Oh my gosh, she's vanished altogether. Guys, let's see if we can get her back again, because these questions are definitely better for Ken to answer. She's the expert here. Now she's sending me messages. Let's see. Oh my gosh, she lost her power. Power down. Let me see if there's anything in the chat that I could go through now. And then we can get Ken back another time to finish answering questions. Let's see if she's going to be able to get back on or not. Nope, looks like her computer's dead. All right, where were we on this? Courses. Ken does offer various kinds of courses. Please check out her website that I posted there, womanthrive.com, to get in touch with her. I've known quite a few people who have had various issues with their hormones and have worked with her and had amazing results. So definitely get in touch with her. She does do one-on-one coaching, although she only does like one a week apparently, because she's kind of a full-time mom and does a lot of other stuff. So if you can get in with her with sessions, you should definitely see if you can do that. Yeah, some of these things I'm definitely not going to be able to answer. Look, chatting to Ken, you know, there are a lot of questions here on daughters and pills and contraception and that kind of stuff. And I know she has very clear perspectives on this. I have 3 daughters, so we'll be going through all of this. But for me, it's very simple. The more they know their bodies, the more they know when they're ovulating, the more they're aware that they can choose when or how they'd like to interact, the safer they can be. So, you know, that really is the most powerful thing. Baron and I managed to avoid pregnancy for over a decade just using the rhythm method. The rhythm method works. If you know your cycles, you know when you ovulate, you know when you can avoid getting pregnant. It's pretty simple. Guys, I think that's about it for this evening then. We'll have to thank Ken from afar because her power is completely down now with the storm in Cape Town. We will put this recording online in the next 2 days, so check it out on our Superfoods website. Also check out our lineup next week on Wednesday. I'm chatting to Catherine Barnhorn from Mila's Meals in the morning on IG Live, which is going to be great, talking about recipes and feeding kids and that kind of thing. And then Wednesday evening, we're chatting to Dr. Heidi van Lochenberg, and we'll be talking about all things on the cutting edge of medicine and health when it comes to your day-to-day health, but also COVID and the story there. She's got a lot of great stuff to share with us there. So thank you all for joining us this evening. Have a fantastic evening further, and look forward to seeing you again. Goodbye.